we've got ICT. Oh, he's here. Here he is. Here he is. Bringing him in to co-host. See if he wants to co-host with me to hang out, or if he just wants to be a speaker, or what. But there he is. Let's see if he just wants to listen to. We're talking trading. We're talking parenting. Was the beginning of the conversation, and being a father and protect, provide, and preside, and boss, Mr. ICT, Mr. Michael Huddleston. Thank you for being here and taking the co-host tag. How are you today, sir?
Morning, brother. How are you?
I couldn't sleep last night. I was so excited, bro. I'm just keeping it real.
I don't know why. I mean, we spent almost 4.5 hours talking in a discussion that unfortunately was plagued.
I love it, bro. I love it. I love engaging and talking with you and just being one of your students on Front Street. I love it. I mean, your wife, we only stopped talking because your wife was texting you, right? Like, she's like, are you coming to dinner or not, right? So anyway, did you get any brekkie? Did you get some coffee? Are you a coffee drinker?
I do not drink coffee.
I didn't think you did. Do you like eggs for brekkie?
Yeah,
bagel?
I ate eggs. I had eggs this morning, actually.
Nice.
Egg whites, actually.
Nice. So, the early part of the conversation, just to say it succinctly, and a few of my posts, just in the theme there, because we have jumped into some trading, right? But we were talking about parenting, and I wanted to ask you specifically how Cody's doing. I'd like to start the conversation with maybe you giving us a how he's doing, a follow-up in a little bit more in depth of because I say that to say protect, provide, and preside that was kind of the theme. Girl dads understanding kind of, being a parent, how that changes your why as a trader.
Well, it's been over a month now that he's been out of what would be considered life-threatening. And as his dad, obviously, I know him better than most people would. If you were to sit down and talk to him, you probably wouldn't notice anything different about him. But I can tell that there's something still not right there, and it's a miracle he's still here. Obviously, I'm very thankful for that. But there's just something I can't put I was literally talking to my other son, Caleb, last night about this because he came by and visited, and he asked how Cody was as well. And I said he had visited a few days ago, and I don't know how to put my finger on exactly what it is that's different, but he's not totally himself. So they kind of warned us and told us it could be like that for months, and not to draw any kind of special attention to it because you don't want to alarm him or make him think about anything to stress about. But he had a lot of irritable swings in his moods for the first couple weeks. That seems to have smoothed out, but it just doesn't seem like himself. It's not like he's not slower, and he's not. It's not that he can't recall certain things, but as a dad, you know your kid, and I just don't think he's quite there yet. And I'm hoping that he gets a full return back to his personality and his normal everyday life, the way he functions. He goes to work again. He's fine in that regard, but I just know that there's something just a little bit off. And my wife said the same thing, but she doesn't want to say more about it because there's power in the tongue, and we don't want to give it any more energy than I've already said here. But apart from that, he's improved greatly. He's back to working, and he and his fiance are planning on getting married. So that's a good thing.
Wow, that's a huge milestone. So in a lot of ways, this has been kind of, obviously, I mean, have you noticed a level of maturity just as a dad talking about our kids and going through traumatic event, right? Is his worldview really changed? Does he value or appreciate the things that he has differently that you notice?
I'm greatly appreciative of where he is now mentally about everything. Because when he was younger, I was the typical dad that wanted to have his kids grow up, believe in the Bible and go to church, and this is what you should behave like, and this is what you should abstain from, and I was really aggressive about it when I first started living it, and looking back, that's not the right way of doing it, but you feel like it is, and he kind of resisted it a lot. And then in his earlier teens, he just basically said, I'm not believing it, you know, and it caused a little bit of a rift between us where he lived a lifestyle that was not something that I would agree with or support. But I let him do what he had to do to discover it's wrong. And I tried to tell him not to buy the motorcycle because I made the mistake of buying one too and messed myself all up. He didn't listen and he kept taking risks, taking risks, taking risks. And I told him, I said, you can only do that so many times before eventually it happens and you can't call it back. And you could either get checked out and your ticket punched or get something that would be debilitating for the rest of your life and regret. And it's probably worse. And he was riding without a helmet, having his dogs chase him. And that was like their daily exercise. And they had just got home from having dinner at a restaurant. And he took off down the road, going about 40 mph. And his stepbrother was walking his dog at the end of the road. And he ran out in front of the motorcycle. And to keep from running him over, he panic braked all front brakes and went over the handlebars. No helmet. And when he landed, the back of his head, which is the same injury that everybody gets when they get killed from the one punch knockout. The pieces of shit that do that and like to record it. When they fall and they hit the back of their head, they die from that injury most of the time. And he had literally a quarter of an inch separating him in that same fate. He was telling me prior to the accident that he was never going to not ride a motorcycle, and he wanted to get a faster one. And I was like, I can't stop him. He's an adult. But long story short, now he doesn't want the bike. He doesn't want to restore it. He never wants to get on it again. And he's appreciative that God spared him. He has a different perspective on his life and how he feels like he's been kept here, given another chance. Um, those were things I prayed for. And I literally said, Lord, if you have to put him through something to get his attention, do what you got to do, because as his dad, I can't reach him anymore. And now, mindset wise, and how he wants to walk forward, he wants to be more responsible. He wants to be here for his fiance, and they're talking about having kids eventually. And you can't do that if you're not here, and you can't do that effectively if you take risks with your life. So he's no longer interested in trying to be a motorcycle operator anymore. So I'm very thankful for that.
Well, I think on behalf of the community, I think we're very thankful that he's on this road to recovery. So, I mean, lot of thoughts and energy going out to you and yours. And I know he's been a thought on a lot of folks' mind, and it's been brought up to me. And having you here, I'm glad that we're able to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I understand how it's still heavy and probably tough to kind of relive or talk about. I can only imagine as a father. So we don't have to harp on it by any means, but I think we wanted to just kind of address it a little bit, if that's cool.
Yeah.
And we did. So with that, did you? I'm looking at a tweet that is there something you wanted to talk about specifically, or is there a topic that that you would like to introduce to the room?
No, when we did our interview, I mean, we went for like 4 hours, 4.5 hours, something like
Four
that.
and a half, almost 5 hours from my
Yeah.
notes.
And we had issues with where on my end, because I was recording it, the video would hang up and it would glitch. And I had another interview that I did, and I wish it wouldn't have been like that as well. But the bandwidth caused a problem for Zoom, and your internet connection was coming through in like breaks. So I didn't want to put that up there, and I told you we could do it again. But I don't think I want to do the video. I think this is actually a better medium. It's a little bit more. Um, I'm more comfortable in this setting.
Me too, brother.
I
Me too.
like the idea of these just being able to speak like out into the ether and not have someone staring back at me and me staring at them. It's a really, I'm a very introverted person, and you may not think that's possible because how I go off on the Twitter spaces, but I am very introverted. And if you ever met me in public, I would be very reserved and quiet, and I wouldn't be like I am usually on a Twitter space. Like now I'm talking to you, I wouldn't be this comfortable talking with you in front, face to face. It wouldn't be like that. I'd have to get to know you a little bit and be around you a little while, and then maybe slowly work out of that shell. But I saw you mention, or not saw you mention, but I heard you mention um, the last space that you were hosting, and you're asking if it was all right for you to upload what you had. And I was like, there were some things that we talked about that I didn't want. Yeah, I think it's the same thing with Corbs.
Right.
Corb
No,
asked a
for
lot of
sure.
questions.
I didn't record anything, by the way. I had one screenshot picture, just one, and I was on an iPad. And out of respect to you, I would never do that. I took notes fervently afterwards just because it was so important to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have any documentation or record of our conversation outside of my notes, just for the record.
If you did, I mean, I just felt it would be a little bit more organic to sit down and kind of like have a discussion. Because I love the fact that you've built this community. And while I haven't been in every single one of them since the inception of it, and when I first discovered it, there was a few times I wasn't able to make it because of personal, schedules and things that wouldn't permit me to do it. But when it's available to me to be able to sit and listen to it, I do. I may be doing work around the house or doing things, that require my hands-on stuff, but I'm listening to it in the background. And just to be able to hear, how everybody comes forward, and not necessarily the folks that use what I teach and what I've contributed. It's not just that. I love the fact that there is an acceptance of everyone that is a trader, because I'm vilified many times, and I've done this to myself, and it's part of how I marketed to myself. But I wanted to be abrasive, so that way people would talk about it. And then when they came to investigate what it is I was teaching, um, they would either be converted or do what I believe is impossible, prove what I'm teaching isn't the market. And they have not been successful in the latter, but I've converted a lot of people to see things a little bit differently. And they don't have to like me. It's not about worshiping me, but I feel that the way this industry is going, um, I tend to be the poster child for the chaos side of it. And my community many times gets the brunt end of what's wrong with the trading community. And I don't want that. And when I came out and started teaching for free, I kind of like wanted to remove that stigma that was there. And it's still a useful thing for people that want to market their own stuff. They'll say, ICT or ICT's community, bunch of cult members, and they're fanatics, whatnot, and they think everything else can't make money. I am aware that other people make money. I have friends, longtime friends, that literally use things that have nothing to do with anything mathematical or charts. They just go with their gut and say, this is what I think is going to happen. And because they do really well in money management, they make profits, but it's not a lot. They still work their job, but they can pay for their little toys every now and then, a couple times a year with what they've earned. Now, does that make them unprofitable? No, of course not. They made money. And I'm not going to criticize them. They don't ask me my opinion of what it is they do. They just think you probably look at what I do and think it's nuts. And I just smile and yeah, I'm not going to say anything, but yeah, I wouldn't do it that way. But your community, and I don't know if it's been like this from the beginning or if it's something that's evolved over time, but you're very inclusive. And I absolutely love that. And I think that that is what makes this trading industry something that's helpful to other people, even if you don't subscribe to the same view or approach to trading. For someone like yourself to help cultivate that and kind of like be the, the the tip of the spear to kind of like say, hey, look, this is what we can be doing, instead of saying, you know, you don't do well as a trader, or you're a fraud, or you can't do this, and your stats are less than this one, or this one does it better than that. That really doesn't do anything for anybody's bottom line, and it's a wonderful drama. It creates a lot of distraction from doing the things that matter most, which is improving your own edge and developing who you are as a trader. And for folks that are easily distracted with that kind of stuff and spend most of their time with it, to me, that just indicates that your head's really not in the game. And I love listening to the like-mindedness that everyone has here, because they share a genuine concern about progress collectively, not just their individual progress, and they care for other people when they share openly, which is another thing I love. When your community members come forward and they talk about the things that they're going through as a hardship, I can resonate with that because I've been through everything, and I didn't have this type of thing. Like I've never drank alcohol. I never had a substance abuse problem. I don't take medications. I don't take medicine at all. And if I was a substance abuser, I obviously would go to things like Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. Those type of support things, I would be using that, because I'm a firm believer of being in a community where you can see other people are going through what you're going through, and it's normal. Because when you go through pain, you go through struggles with anything, it tends to create this depression, and it grips you, and it makes you feel like this is only happening to you and nobody could understand. And in trading, this is such a difficult thing to overcome, because you're competing with yourself while in a state of ignorance. You can't see beyond what you already know about yourself and what you have a limited understanding about the markets. And that experience is growing very, very slowly in the beginning. So you're constantly feeding yourself reasons to not even try it. And you feel like what you're thinking or doubting or fearful of is only happening to you because you're the failure. And when your community members step forward and they talk about, hey, this is what I'm going through right now. And it's nice to hear other people encourage them, and also hear that this is what they did to get through it. That to me is empowering. I love that. And many times I got emotional listening to some of the folks that have been emotional and have their hearts on their sleeves. That's tapping into the reality of what it is like to be a human doing something so extremely difficult, where it's a thankless endeavor in the beginning. No one's going to support you doing this. In the beginning, everyone's going to give you every reason why you shouldn't do it. They're going to try to talk you out of it. You're going to try to talk yourself out of it. And it's going to be very, very hard to stay with it. And if you can find a community like what you have going here, man, it is such an oasis, because I absolutely would have loved to had the access to something like this, where other people were literally there talking and going through what it is that they have to mow over, and the loss and the feeling of, can I get past this? What am I going to have to focus on to get through this? And asking other people's perspectives on, how did you deal with this? Am I foolish in thinking that this would be a solution or an approach to get past it? What did you do? And is this wrong, or is this a better way of doing it? That to me is amazing. That's better than any kind of book out there, because it's allowing people with real experiences and real issues that you may not have encountered yet, or encountering right now, but you're too afraid to talk about it. You're too afraid to deal with it. You try to hide, turn your face like it's not really there. And that's a problem. You have to just deal with it. You have to meet it head on, and don't be afraid of it. And if you fail while trying, that's progress. That's literally progress, because you're going to look back and say, okay, I tried it this way. That didn't work. I tried it that way. That didn't work. Okay, I'm at my wit's end, but I'm not giving up. Let me ask someone else. I want to ask my peers in a like-minded environment where everybody in your community, they're not attacking each other. They're not saying, oh, well, you don't trade our way. Oh, you don't do this. You don't do that. For instance, that guy, I don't know his name. I don't even think he has a name. The other guy that you learn under.
M7. M7.
Yeah. Yeah. There for a while, his community and my community, they were trying to get some spat going, whatnot. Everybody's got a team mentality. Everybody has a team mentality. Everybody gets their alma mater, behind them, and they want to raise their banner and their flag and all that business. And I'm of the opinion that, listen, if the students have an issue with someone else's methodology and the methodology is making the other group money, they have no argument. There's no argument there. This community, I've never heard anyone in this community say, or at least the ones I've listened to, where they have not been very cordial to one another. And to me, that I have a great deal of respect for that. Because number one, that's not selling drama for the sake of selling your brand. It's reassuring that if they have the results using that methodology or any other methodology, they're blooming where they're planted. They don't need to do or do what I do or what I teach. They could give two shits, really. They don't care, because they found something that fits them. And that's all I try to do. I try to cultivate that mindset. Well, whatever it is that you do, you might use just one idea that I have introduced as a school of thought. That doesn't mean I mentored you. That doesn't mean you got to go around and tell everybody I was mentored by ICT and you got to carry me around like a celebrity. I don't want that. In this community, while your name for the Twitter handle has my name in it, and it's about ICT concepts. It's not predominantly ICT concepts, which that's the direction I want to see. Like, I want to see a departure from me, and I want to see what other people do with the information and how it makes them a better human, a better trader, and not have to always reflect back to me. And you've created an environment where you're allowing that. You're not like a fanboy, which I get it, because when I was younger at 20 years old, I would have went nuts to meet Larry Williams. Like, I would have went crazy just to meet that guy, because I elevated him up to some unrealistic plateau that no man should be placed to. And I'm the least of which anybody should do that. I'm a terrible teacher. I don't control my tongue well. I'm not a good advocate for Christ because I can't control my tongue, and it's things I struggle with. So there's a lot of things I can check off as a checklist of where my frailties are. So I should not be championed around like most people like to do with me. And I love the fact that you conduct this community in a manner, and I'm glad you're very respectful, because for folks that don't know, I've asked in the interview that Kit and I had where we talked for a while, I said, listen, I love sitting in and listening. I just don't have another account where I can go in and listen and other people not know I'm there. I don't do sock puppet accounts. I don't do those types of things. But I wish there was a way for me to have had to sit in and never be recognized in there, because I want the people that come forward and talk and be part of your community to pretend I'm not even there. Don't make it about me. Just talk about what it is that you brought yourself there to talk about. And if you want to say something to me, I'm on Twitter, and you can say hi to me. I'll like your post. I'll say something back if I feel like I have to do it. But that setting, that's the part that makes it uncomfortable for me. Like, I don't want to be like that. And you've been very respectful in regards to trying to steer the community members to not do that, because I'm not here to hear people talk about me. And I want people to hear it from me in your community that I love it when you don't talk about me and you just talk about your experience. I'm genuinely interested, much as like I said when you were talking to me in the Zoom live. I have a genuine, sincere interest in other people's experiences. That's what I want. I want to spend the rest of my life after November watching and observing and looking at seeing what everybody else is doing. I have a genuine interest in it. It's a sincere interest. that I don't have to monetize. I don't have to have my name brought up about it. I just want to see what everyone does with it because I'll be blessed by that by default. I don't need to have someone, you know, parading around and advertising me. And I think you've done an amazing job of managing your community in that regard and still making an allowance and an inviting atmosphere for other people with different approaches to trading where they can feel like, sometimes they'll open up and say, well, I don't trade with what you guys use, but this is what I do, but I like the community. That's exactly what you've done. You've created that atmosphere where normally someone might not go to a like a live streamers or a podcast um, event or venue because they're very team oriented. They're this and only this. That kind of causes someone to feel standoffish and say, well, if I go out there, they're probably going to try to pin me down and ask me why I don't want to subscribe to their view and what makes their methodology better. And that just creates an argument that no one can win because no one would convince me that what I use isn't better than everything else. When I know personally that I think that there's nothing else better than this. But when people hear me say that, and they're either learning or they're using something that's profitable for them, they tap into that team mentality. They want to go back to college football. Well, my team's going to kick your team's ass in the playoffs, or I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. It's your NASCAR driver. It's your whatever the hell it is, your MMA fighter. It's this team mentality. I can't stand that. Like I literally cannot stand it, and I try to smash that with everything I say. And even when I talk about myself, I don't want any of that stuff in my community. And I think that you've done a more effective way of managing it and allowing for an immersion experience where no one can feel alienated. I mean, I love when you put your foot down and people are in here fucking off. You hear them talking about, yeah, I've done this and I've done that. I never lose a trade. I think it was a couple spaces ago. I almost pissed myself. The guy's like, yeah, I do this and I do this and I haven't ever losing trade. And you're like, okay, hold on. What you're telling me is you never win. I'm sorry, you never lose and you always win. Get the fuck out of here. That's what you do. That's exactly you got to broom that bullshit. But everything else, you're very, very good at managing the the atmosphere for everyone else to feel comfortable. So if you want to come on and you want to talk bullshit, good. Call it what it is, broom it, get rid of it. But you've allowed for people to have a ulterior perspective or alternative perspective and not feel, at least from my observation, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Nothing was cringy about it where another style or approach to trading that the members would come forward in the community, or maybe it was their first visit. And they always thanked you that you've allowed for this medium in this community for people to come together and meet. And I think that you should be recognized for that because what you're doing, this community in the industry itself needs more of this type of stuff. And you conduct yourself very, very well. Um, and you've done a very effective job of allowing for the open invitation for people to come forward. And I think more people should be here.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for those flowers, Michael. Thank you so much for the acknowledgement, the recognition. And I want you to know, and I want anybody and everyone that's listening, like a lot of this is, I mean, I'm 45, I turn 46 in a few weeks, right? And a lot of this very similar to things that you've said throughout your episodic life's work that you've pushed out there when I was 20, or if I could, if I could go back in time, like I really do look at the 20-year-old who's listening and those things, those lessons that I think are extremely impactful and powerful. Number one is respect, right? I mean, listening to what someone wants to their request. I think respect amongst men is primordial, and not just men amongst traders. But then also, Michael, I mean, I want to turn and I want people to understand what I believe your life's work is this self-improvement manual above and beyond trading, and wherein even how you utilize numbers and timestamps, and whether your intuition is flaring or you're doing it mindfully, or the terminology of a market structure shift and a change in character, and where and how the guide to a person's individual improvement of self, going from that introspective, that intrapersonal dialogue within themselves, to where and how they interpersonally can reflect and deal with others and or the market itself. I think it's a masterclass on self-improvement. And I think there's so many more deeper levels, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, in which you've touched on over the years, time and time and time again, that why so many folks are able to listen to you. And a lot of folks might not have that father figure. A lot of folks might not have that mentor in a space that needs it. You've done a master class in providing a way in which a young man or woman can really take on these challenges within life and be able to apply becoming a professional decision maker, not just on the charts, in life. And I mean, I just want to tell you, as a student of yours for as long as I've been a student of yours, maybe it's from an older man's perspective, but this community is forged in your work. And I believe strongly the advanced concepts of ICT are the core tenets of which this community have been found on. And you've heard me say it, and I say it again. It's this mastermind principle. We're stronger together than we are alone, that we can accomplish more together than we can together in a year than we could individually in a lifetime, that we rise by lifting others. You've asked this question repeatedly. If you had the gift, you've referred to it to me personally as the increase. What do you do with it? And for me, that's to trumpet as loud as fucking humanly possible ways in which to help other people. We rise by lifting others, which I think is a Rand Ingersoll quote. But these to me are core tenets within your life work that, as an older, maybe more mature father and trader, I've been able to conceptualize and articulate. And we have based everything within this community based off of what I believe are the core tenets that you've provided us as a student body. So I appreciate all the flowers, but I still turn it and say very gratefully, with a lot of respect, thank you. And on behalf of the student body, bro, none of us would be here without your insights and your clarity and what you've been able to provide this global community. I mean, you're teaching third world folks, kids, how to have hope. Man, if that
It's
doesn't
very
deserve respect, I don't know what does, bro.
it's very overwhelming when, like, I wish I could have more time to be able to reply to everybody that sends things to me. Like, I feel like I'm cheating them from the opportunity that they just want to have a moment to thank me. I see all of the notations. I see every comment. I see every thing that I open. But there's so many emails that I get every single day. Like, it's at a pace and quantity that I can't. If I did it 18 hours a day, nonstop, no breaks, I wouldn't even scratch the surface of the correspondence I get. And that's why I reply in blanket statements a lot, because a lot of it's the same thing. They just want to say thank you. And the way you thank me is turn your life around with it and then bless somebody else with it. That's how you do it. That's the currency here. I want to see other people be impacted on a positive with what you do with it. What you do with this, how do you bless somebody else with it? And I didn't have that mindset when I first started. I talked about this when we were having the interview, and I said it many times in the past as well. I was initially just wanting to get out of the rat race and not have to work the rest of my life. And then when I see how fast the market can pay out, it changed me. It turned me into a very greedy, self-centered person, which is what money can do to anyone. And you think it might not happen to you. And this is how I felt about it. But I turned into a very arrogant prick. Now, you think I'm arrogant now, but I am nothing compared to what I was when I was in my 20s. And it was disgusting, very offensive. And I wouldn't be able to tolerate myself today. Some of you probably can't tolerate me now, but it was very, very, very disgusting. And when I talk to my children, because that's who I'm really aiming at when I'm talking in the videos, and unless I'm specifically calling somebody out by name and I'm addressing something that I feel that they could use or whatnot. And I said this to my son Caleb last night. I said, I was listening to your Twitter space the other day. I said, yeah, which one? And he's like, this and that. And I said, yeah, I was thinking about your brother. When I'm talking, I'm talking about your brother. And I'm envisioning them in the room, and I'm trying to picture them sitting in front of me, and I'm counseling them. And many times I put the hat on as if I could be my own father and talk to my younger self. This is what I wish I would have had a dad tell me. And I didn't have that. My father, he's been in prison my entire life. I've not been able to have that type of connection with him. So as a child, I lived in a fantasy world that my dad would get out and marry my mom, and everything would be happy, and I'd have a normal childhood, because I had to live vicariously through my friends' parents and being like a surrogate son and daughter and brother and father and mother kind of entity in that environment. I was attracted to that. And many of the friendships that I had were strong because I wanted to be part of that family fabric that they had. And I was envious of that. I didn't have it. So bringing up my children and wanting them to be in a position where, if the Lord so decides that I got to go and he's calling me home, I could have met with an untimely demise, just like my son almost did. Again, it could still happen. Like, this could be the last time I'm talking to his face. Nobody's promised tomorrow, but I try to leave these things down so my kids can hear me and they know I'm talking to them. And I get it that a lot of the students, and this is like the number one thing that I get as a response, and people send it to me through TradingView comments and whatnot. I feel like you're talking to me. Like when I'm listening to you talk, it feels like you're talking to me. And that rapport that we build together, I'm appreciative of. But in all honesty, I'm talking to my children. And because I'm talking to my children, everything I'm saying is all truth, all emotion. I'm 150% behind what I'm saying. And that's why sometimes I get emotional, because I want them to succeed. And by default, because all of you have inclined your ear to the things I'm putting out there, you're giving me your time, which is invaluable. Like, there's no price tag to put on that. Like, no mentorship cost or fee, could scratch the surface of you giving your weekend, hours of listening to some man, talk about things, and you glean from that what you should be doing in your own personal life. Like, I'm a regular person. Like, that's all I am, a regular person with a lot of various experience in doing things that I wasn't formally trained to do. Everything I learned in college, I don't even apply it. It's not applicable. I couldn't even get a job with it. The Lord said, no, this isn't where I want you. And I asked for the gift of teaching. And I still believe if he gives me more time here, I think I can improve as a teacher, but I don't feel I hit the mark yet. And I want to make lasting impressions on my children. And by default, for the folks that have an affinity for what it is that I try to do, I'm appreciative that they feel that rapport and that they resent with what it is I'm teaching and sharing, and appreciate the fact that I'm doing it where I don't have to. Like, I don't have to do it. And I don't have to make known the things that I give out publicly. I don't have to give the personal things that go on in my family and what my children encounter and how they're wrestling with certain things, and or what I wrestled through. Most people would have been too embarrassed to ever talk about some of the things I've brought up about myself. But I want you to understand that there's a real person that went through some of the things you may have not encountered yet. Or maybe you have gone through it and you felt that it was too overwhelming, so don't bother. And you just can't leave trading alone. You just come and you hang around people that talk about it, but you can't do it now because you're too scared. Now, I've been there. I've been there. And my son Cameron, he went through a little bit of it, but he's back in there again. He's up $1,300 on one of his Express accounts. 3 days of winning, and I told him, I said, you just got to stay at it, and don't keep swinging for the fences all the time. You can't do that. It's normal to try that. It's normal to have the desire to do that. But when you fail and you fall down, that's expected because you're trying to do more than that's necessary. And over time, you'll learn to have better footing. You'll know exactly how you stand when you throw that haymaker, and that way you don't get off balance. You're trying to do everything behind every single attempt. And you'll learn how to measure this at this activity level you're trying to produce for results. No book can teach you that. I can't articulate it. And even in videos or Twitter spaces, that's the part that everybody has to work towards and get with their own experience doing it. And everybody that fights me on this or asks, how long is it going to take? Or this takes too long to learn how to do it. It's frustrating because that's the individual that will quit before they get to that one little crossroad where they make the right decision and go one step further. And then now they're at that point where they'll never stop trying. And that's a necessary requirement in this industry because it's so easy to convince yourself it's not worth it. And for a long time, everybody just thought that this stuff is contrived and nobody can be consistent. It can't be predictable. There isn't really any precision, and nobody else can learn it. It's just him doing some kind of magic trick. I have a legion of people all around the world, different walks of life, and they've come forward with their results, and they keep coming forward with their results. And it's in a manner where it can't be faked. And I'm so proud of all of you. I'm so proud of all of you that you've committed your time, effort. You've given up your weekends. You've given up your time in the evening when you come home from work or come home from school. You cram in every possible moment to study and observe and listen and take notes. All that stuff for the folks that are seeing the results. In the beginning, they didn't think it was going to work. If they're going to be 100% honest with you, they were waiting for themselves to be met with the proof that it was not going to work for them. But for those individuals, they kept doing exactly what I said to keep doing, avoiding the things I told them to avoid. And it's hard. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of effort to stay with it. And you don't get cheerleaded. My wife still, she doesn't understand it, and she thinks it's trivial. Like, oh, it's a video game. It's not an impressive thing to me. She doesn't have the capability to understand the difficulty in what we do. It's not easy. Like, you're having to determine the future at a moment's instant. Right there, you have to decide, what's the future going to bring right now? Is it going to do this or is it going to do that? And if I don't do it right, it takes from me. It takes from me. So I have a vested interest in the outcome of this future prediction. Whereas you play a board game or you play a video game, okay, well, I can respawn. It's not a big deal. That guy may have taken me out in the game and may laugh at me, do some kind of taunt towards the end of the game, and I got to see that and witness it. But after that, you respawn, it's over. Who cares? You've done something. You're doing something new. You're distracted. In trading, we don't have that luxury because when it takes something from you, you're in lack. You're underneath the water and you have to get that back before real progress is seen again. And that difficulty is very intimidating in the beginning. And when you discover just how much you have to go through to really learn about yourself and what you have to overcome and meet and describe, this is what your process of going through this character flaw and overcoming it is going to require. Some of you won't want to do it. Some of you will have to fight kicking and screaming to get through that before you ever see any progress in trading. There's things that we have to beat up in us, conquer, subdue, overtake, hold captive. So that way it gives us time to grow outside of those natural tendencies to be human. We as humans, we live with certain attributes that are negative, but we don't associate them as negative because we've grown comfortable with what they are. It might be codependency. It might be staying in a relationship with someone that you know is absolutely toxic, and you're keeping yourself there because the effort and time and energy of making the change and the scariness of it, you're grown comfortable with that discomfort, and you call it normal. You call that normal. And in the beginning, it's normal for you to feel like it's not going to work for you and to doubt it. It's normal for you to feel like your results aren't worth staying with it because it's probably never going to get better than that. Or you don't do it well in the beginning and you don't see immediate gratification. I needed the very thing that I try to provide for all of you. I needed that and I didn't have it. Through prayer, I believe I was ministered to through that and encouraged. But I wanted someone that I could tap into at least once a week. And because it's my nature to be like this, I'm obsessive. I try to be every day in your ears, every day reminding you, this is what you're looking for. This is what you're striving for. This is what you should be focusing on. Don't let this bother you. Keep your focus on this. Keep doing what you're doing. It's going to work. It's going to work every week, every day, and it won't stop. I believe it. I live it. But it has to be constantly reminded to you. Even though you can't hit that yet, you will. You will. But you have to go through that progress, that uncomfortable valley where you just don't see where it's going to take you to the higher ground. How long I got to stay down here? As long as it takes for you. And every single one of you have a journey that you have to walk. I can't walk it with you. You have to do it. Nobody else is going to make it a shorter journey. Nobody can shorten it for you. Okay. Nobody can make it any less painful. You're going to have to go through it. And I try not to sugarcoat that because I want my kids to understand if I was to be met with an untimely demise, that they hear me tell them, if you don't have me now, you have me telling you these things that are absolutely what I'd be telling you if I was still with you. And it all started on this idea that I watched the Michael Keaton movie, My Life. You know, he had a terminal illness and he said, well, I'm not going to be here when my kid's born. I'm not going to be able to raise him up. And I'm going to just make videos and talk about, hey, this is what we do. And this is what a dad would teach his kid if he was there. I'm going to do all these things. I'll do it in videos. That way, when you grow up, you can watch dad and he'll tell you exactly what he should be telling you if he was there. So because I had anxiety when I was younger, I was fearful I was going to check out early. And I was saying to myself, if I go and I don't make this known, I've been selfish with it. And I've not done a good job of sharing it. And I felt that if I did it in the context of teaching my children and making it available to other people that would be inclined to listen to it, you know, it was a social media experiment. Was there anybody else that I could create by doing this? Could I get another ICT out of that laboratory experiment? Could it happen? Can I create profitable students going through the same thing that I went through when I released that content all the way back on Baby Pips? That order is the exact order I went through my journals. The things I went through, the things I focused on, the progress of everything, the order of the content in my core content. That's exactly the order of the importance I placed everything and how I discovered everything. Everything is a pattern of how it was revealed to me. It was absolutely 100% detailed in that order. And I'm waiting to see. That's why I tell all of you, I'm actively, sincerely interested in seeing who does what with it. And there's a lot of you that have done this. You've turned around, you've created mentorships. Some of you have rebranded and renamed the things that I've put out there and foolishly lied and said, I've done those things when I haven't done that. I'm not impressed with that. I'm not going to shoot you down because you need to eat and you probably have a family and whatnot, and that's fine. The folks that take the information and they do well with it and they go out and they find other people and help them. Yeah. I can tell you here and start crying all the things that people around the world have been doing with what I've shown them how to do. They've built hospital wings with my name over them. And I don't deserve things like that.
You do though, buddy. I want to interject. I want you to know the impact, the global impact that you've had, and the fact that I have a voice. You do deserve it. And you might not see it, but I want you to know and I want you to feel how much love, appreciation, and respect you have for the increase that not only you have been provided, but that you've provided. You do deserve it, brother. You do. You deserve far more than that. Your impact is palpable on the lives of so many. And I want, and I'm blessed to be able to interject on the points that you're making. You do deserve it. And I want to stand on your shoulders and in your shadow as a student, trying to pick up what you've been putting down as just a humble follower. And I want to say with all my heart, brother, you do deserve it. You deserve every blessing that you get. And you've put yourself on Front Street. You've had these challenges, and they've done nothing but take you from this angelic, cult like figure to making you an extremely real ass motherfucker. And that realness is why so many people will drop what they're doing because you've got something to say. I want you to understand that the folks here all echo what I'm saying because it's important that you get to hear it. Not for adulation, not for any other reason than you do deserve wings and hospitals to be named after you. The increase that you have provided a global community, it feels divine, Michael. You need to know that as just a peer, as a friend, as a student, as another man, as a mere mortal.
Um, is it okay if I can say something real quick?
I think so.
So, I'm a 21-year-old man, and I live in Canada right now. I'm just trying to be human here and just speak my thoughts. In 2013, the war got really, really, really bad in Syria. I went through a lot. We were better because my dad was a doctor, but it was still just affecting all of us. Right near my house, there was tanks, explosions everywhere. My mom would go get some yogurt. 5 minutes later, she leaves the store. An explosion in the store. Everyone's dead in it. Stuff like that. So we went through a lot. And in 2013, I came to Canada. We were the first family to come as a refugee. Um, we were accepted and we came. My aunt was here. She was the one who took care of us. We struggled a lot. So we went through a lot. And it was funny because around like 2.5 years ago, it was like in this. So my family are they're Druze. It's a brand. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a branch from Muslims, but it's totally different beliefs. Not totally, but it's different. I never resonated with that, and I started finding Christ around 2.5 years ago, and it was so funny because in the same like 2 weeks where I was trying to find Christ, a Christian friend of mine gave me your name and your content, and I took it as of like that it was from God. This was from God proving Himself to me, and I just put in work, and it was all there. And I can come here and be thanking you about everything you're doing on the charts, but you already know all that. So I truly want to thank you for making me a better son to my parents. I want to thank you for making me a better brother to my siblings. I want to thank you for making me a better man to my girlfriend, because you changed my whole view on everything. And of course, most importantly, you got me so close to Christ, man. Like, you got me so close to Him. It was like, I don't even know. And like the comfort I find in hearing you, man, like you don't understand the comfort. Like, I would have anxiety and I would just listen to you and it would all go away. All of it. Like, it would just fully go away when I hear your voice. You just gave me so much hope, so much confidence in myself. So I'm truly speaking out of my heart when I say thank you, and on behalf of everyone, thank you so much. And I don't know what you decide to do after November, but no matter what, we're going to miss you. And I promise you, because I know myself and I know my ability, I am going to make it. And I promise you that your work will go into good things. I will help people. I will help my family and help the poor people I don't know, because you taught us that we're all brothers and sisters and we all should be helping each other. So truly, truly, thank you for everything you have done, man. That's all.
Thank you.
Well said and well deserved.
Can I also say something?
Well deserved.
Sorry, Kit.
Then, bro.
By the way, yeah, no, how are you doing,
Yeah.
Kit? Thank you so much
First
for
of
opening this
all,
up.
okay.
Just wanted to say it's quite ironic because all throughout my trading career, I started trading 5 years ago when I was 21, and throughout my trading career, I've heard this and that about ICT, who ICT this, ICT that. I never really looked into it, right? And it's just funny because last month or a couple months ago, I ran into Kit on his face, and I obviously, Kit, you remember I thought you were ICT, of course, right?
Yeah, I know. I slapped that down. You know that.
Because I didn't know about ICT, who ICT was. So it was just ironic. Kit was on that space and Kit, dropped some gems, well, a lot of gems, was very humble, down to earth, and that kind of opened my mind. I thought, wait a second, you know, these ICT guys are not really what I'm hearing from all these people. What you mentioned about them being a cult, them thinking they're the only kind of traders that are out there, this and that. So that was the first, real introduction I got to ICT, and last couple months I've been doing a lot of studying on the concepts. Obviously, I'm nowhere near as advanced as most of the guys in here who have ICT in their name.
TWP, is there anything you can do with your audio? Is there a
Oh
way
shoot,
you
I got
can
my
improve it?
AirPods in. My
Take out those
Is it better now?
fucking things. Oh my god.
Is it better now? Oh my.
Yes. Yeah. Fucking AirPods
Oh
are
shoot,
killing me,
yeah.
bro. All right,
My
go
fault.
ahead.
All right. Yeah, no, sorry. I'm traveling for soccer soon, so I was, listening to you guys while packing my stuff and everything. But anyway, so yeah. No, just to fast forward the story, yeah, listening to Kit first of all kind of got me an introduction to ICT. A few other guys showed me some videos. I started reading, studying the concepts. Like I said, I've been trading 5 years, but I never really understood how ICT worked. And then just to listen to you speak today, you're humble, you're empathetic, you're teaching us, you're open-minded. It's funny because you're so down to earth and so approachable that I'm just so shocked that I never looked into it this much. And like I said, I'm grateful because what you mentioned is really true. What you addressed about the ICT community is really true because there's so much to learn, there's so much to do in the stock market, but it's so difficult to overcome your challenges, your losses, because in this day and age, you have all this social media which helps you, but it can also hold you back. When you have a spaces like this where people come, they share their thoughts, you see they have a similar mindset. For the beginner traders, that's a dream. When someone's so approachable and easy to talk to, someone possesses a warm, welcoming demeanor, it puts you at ease. So I'm happy that you're doing this. You know, like I said, I would have loved to have this when I started back. You know, because every failure we hit, we hit it on the head, and it can be detrimental to your trading journey if you're not, you know, mentally tough, if you're not able to bounce back. You know, but obviously it does shape you to become the best trader possible. But like I said, it's just it's so heartwarming to have someone who's so approachable, who's present in the moment, who's easy to listen to actively. And this is the kind of person you want to engage with. So, like I said, I'm just grateful that you're doing this for the community. As you mentioned, when you started trading, you didn't have all of this. You know, everyone has something, you know, everyone has a lot to learn, but sometimes we're looking for the right person to learn from. Sometimes we're looking for the person who's going to have the correct perspective, who shares the ideas in the right way. So no, I just want to thank you for being so down to earth, like I said, and you know, regardless of how you trade, you know, I'm way different to most of you traders because I trade support and resistance, you know, different price action market structure. So I'm still not an ICT trader, right? But you welcome me in the community. I'm learning from you. You know, this week was one of my best weeks of this year. Again, I trade what I trade. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, it's right. The most important thing is that I'm disciplined, that I make money. So yeah, I'm just grateful. I'm just telling you that, you know, you coming up here, showing how self-aware you are, recognizing emotion, sharing your thoughts, you know, your beliefs, all that stuff is so refreshing to hear. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you because this is my first interaction with you, the actual ICT, and of course I've been interacting with Kit a lot of the past few months. So yeah, thank you so much for everything, and hope everything goes well with your son as well. It's also interested to hear from a son's perspective.
Thank you, TWP.
Now can I say
We have
also
kind of
something?
intuitively opened up the floor. We are taking some of your thoughts into sense. There's a lot of you guys here. We want to hear from you guys. The adulation is a thing. Again, let's respect it. And I understand it might be your first time having an opportunity to speak with the ICT or to be heard directly from the ICT. But understand this space and this forum, it's just about traders getting together, talking about life, and hanging out. So I really want to keep that perspective in line with where we're at. And as much as
I do.
What's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say I do have a question for Michael about the charts. If he would like to answer it, of course. I don't know if that was the topic we can go to.
We'll see if he wants to answer it or not. Otherwise, I'll.
Go ahead, you can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So, in the past 6 months, obviously, I just even studied more and more, understood your concept, and it's not that I am not profitable at all, and it's not that my ability is not good. I'm getting there, but I understand liquidity very good. I said session liquidity very good now. I understand how the intraday, like the 1 minute, how it works before a run, how it takes out liquidity on both sides and stuff like that. I understand how PD arrays work and your timing of the sessions. I understand all that, and I love your silver bullet model. For some reason, I understand all that, and it's not that I don't make money, but I can't seem to put it all in one model for the silver bullet, like a written model. Is there a way you can go on that? I'm sure you've said it before, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I say this, but like, yeah, is there a way you could, when it comes to the sessions, the sessions liquidity, how it takes it out and put with the PD arrays and everything, to put it all into one model, the silver bullet?
If you were to take a approach like trying to figure out what's the highest probability for the direction of the week, and whatever those targets are you're aiming for the week, until they're met, until they're reached, you stay with that idea for the beginning basis of each individual narrative for individual sessions, and daily bias as a default because of that. If you use previous day's highs and lows, which they don't hide from you. I mean, they're right there for everybody to see. That was the very first thing I taught on Baby Pips to focus on for Forex trading. You never run out of setups like that. And if you go back and look at the daily chart, every single trading day, the bias, whether you know it beforehand or after, In the beginning, you don't know what it is. So to teach yourself how to grow in your understanding of where to aim for each day, what is it more likely to aim for? The previous day's high or the previous day's low? And or the day before it, high or low? Or the day before it, high or low? So in other words, you're looking at the high and lows of the last 3 days. That's exactly what I introduced first on Baby Pips. If you use those 6 levels, okay, it's 3 highs and 3 lows, which one has been traded with a fair value gap? The one that creates one or trades to it and creates a fair value gap, and it allows you to move in sync with what you thought was going to happen for the weekly. Like, where is it going to go on the weekly chart? Is it likely to expand mostly higher, or is it expanding mostly lower? If you're trying to focus on shorts, okay, it would go without saying that you're going to try to see a move to yesterday's low, or the low prior to yesterday, or the low 3 days ago. And using the 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, or the 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, or 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, or 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning, or 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning, or 7 o'clock to 8:30 in the morning. All of those are opportunities for you to look for that simple silver bullet model. Over time, with experience, you're going to determine that every single hourly candle can be traded and treated the same way as a daily range, because everything is fractal. And by aiming for the previous hour's high or low, framing it with that mindset, you can start getting high frequency trading algorithm entries using a silver bullet model for a 15 or 30-second entry or fair value gap. So I could literally talk to you for the rest of today and still not really scratch the surface of answering it, in my opinion, the most significant manner of responding to what your questions ask. I understand what you're asking, but there's a plethora of examples on how to do that, and I just gave you new ones here just in a couple sentences. It's a matter of finding the one that fits you. That's why there's so many things that have to be brought from your own personal perspective and your personality into trading. Can you be in front of the charts at that specific time? Can you trade a setup that would not look like everything else I've shown so far? Because I do other models, and like I have a video that's been rendering while I've been here with you live. I'm gonna upload it here in a moment, but I'm teaching a new PD array in there, and what I actually traded yesterday in non-farm payroll. So if you understand that you are given the opportunity to bring your personal perspective, your personality, and how you are going to allow your trading to be form fitted with the concepts, not take the concepts and form fit it to you. You have to bring your personality to it. You have to allow whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable looking at price and how it invites you to engage with it. I have so many concepts, so many ways to get in that same scenario, but you just have to determine what it is you're trying to do. Are you a reversal trader? Are you a contrarian trader? Do you like to trade with trends that just have been obvious for a long period of time on the 4-hour and daily chart? If you know that it's likely to go down to a level that's 200 handles away for an index future, or 300 pips for a forex pair, if that's what you're really focusing on, like if that's what the whole model is based around, and you have the commitment to hold for something like that and stay with that idea, then using any time frame less than an hour, you can do a 15-minute fair value gap with the silver bullet mindset. Silver bullet is not simply a matter of limiting it to a specific time. All I've done was take very specific generic times where order flow is going to be one-sided. That's what's occurring there, because the algorithm is going to start spooling and delivering price one-sidedly. And because its nature is to perform that way, if you look for a fair value gap in those specific time windows where the beginning and the ending of it is, it can't hide from you. It literally cannot hide from you. It's a matter of you knowing what you're likely to draw to at that given time of day, whether it be London, PM session, AM session, it matters not. But you have to warm up to the idea of whatever it is you're trying to do. Any one of those particular times of the day, that's where you should bloom, where you're planted. Plant yourself right there and say, okay, I don't care what ICT and the rest of his crew does and what their trades. I don't care about that. I don't care what new PD array or what model I release in October. I don't give two spits about whatever I talk about in the future in a book. I'm trying to nail down one thing so I can start getting good at doing one thing right now. You start with when can you get in the charts? Because if you can't figure that out or determine and settle in on that, nothing's going to work for you. But once you settle in with that, then you have to determine, okay, where's the likely draw on liquidity? I mean, that's the whole basis of what it is I'm teaching. Because if you can get to that, and you won't always be correct, are you in a state of mind that allows for that imperfection? Because many times in the beginning, people don't want to accept the fact that they may be less than 50% accurate. And that's normal for someone that's learning a new skill. And over time, you'll get to that 50-50. And eventually, over years, you'll get to 70 and higher. But you'll still have losing trades. And you'll be in a time when you think that you know where the market's going to go, draw to. I'll give you a perfect example. I was very confident yesterday that the gold market was going to sweep out that low. I literally told my youngest son, I said, I think that it's going to take that low today. And you don't know this until me saying it, but I was wrong in his eyes. He watched me say something and outline something that didn't come to fruition. So do I throw out everything because that didn't pan out? Do I tell him, well, don't worry about learning this now because that one incident where I did it wrong, my expectation wasn't seen in the delivery of price. The model therefore should be thrown away. No. So I don't know how you engage price. I don't know what it is that you're specifically looking for and how you have been trying to frame bias and where the liquidity would be for the silver bullet to even pan out. But silver bullet is just a way for me to describe a return to a very small, insignificant piece of price action that's easily identifiable, which is the fair value gap, on a very, very small time frame during a time when it's going to run for 15 to 30 minutes minimum in one-sidedness in price delivery. So really, if you understand what I just said, there is lots of silver bullets throughout the course of a 24-hour period. And if you're using seconds charts, like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, man, there's dozens of them every day. Dozens of them. And the only thing I've tried to do is limit your focus because so many people have a hard time trying to figure out, well, I don't know what setup to do. I don't know what PD array. Okay, forget that. Here's the PD array. Here's the one little thing, that one little cog that you have to use. Focus just on this. But only look for it between this beginning time and this ending time and practice with that until you get really, really good at doing that one thing. Some of you will never want to do anything else because it makes you your money. And that does not mean you failed. It doesn't mean you're a subpar student. It doesn't mean that my other stuff doesn't work. This means that you've discovered yourself and you've discovered what works for you and you're content with enough. Because with enough, the heavy lifting's done with money management. You can take a small little cookie cutter approach, very simple, small little idea of what I've taught here with Silver Bullet. You can turn that into a fortune. It's all how you manage the money and you submit the time. I literally was telling Cameron this the other day. I said, when you swing for the fences and you're trying to do your model, what you were messing up with is you see how when it starts to run real quick, you take the limit orders off. And you think it's going to keep running and go like 200 handles. And you abandon the easy objective of getting to your target, getting paid, and moving to the sidelining and letting yourself be content with, I made this work for me. And then learn by experience that this is how many times over the course of 3 months, 6 months, a year, this is how many times I did that very thing. And yes, 50 to 100 times more, it went way beyond where I got out at. That's encouragement that you were doing the right thing. But until you do something and get a measurable baseline and prove to yourself that you can be disciplined doing just that, you won't get to these big grand slam home runs where you're doing the full daily range, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to catch those big moves, but he's trying to skip over something. So I'm taking a great deal of liberty, and I'm trying not to be offensive in replying to you. I don't know what you've done, and I don't know how you yourself, and please don't be offended by what I'm about to say, Kit, or anyone else that's listening. I don't want this to be one of those sit down and ask, dear Abby, like I'm gonna have a one-on-one mentorship with you in 5 minutes now. Because first of all, we won't get through anything, and it'll alienate everyone else that's listening. But I'm trying to be inclusive, so that way everyone that may have a question or something similar along the same vein, you have to have a target. You have to have an approach. What are you framing the draw on liquidity? Are you using a day where you think that it dropped early in the day, but eventually it's going to have a higher close or a higher high in the day? Okay, then that sets the framework for you probably avoiding the morning session. Don't do anything in the morning session and set your sights on the PM 2 o'clock to 3 and or 3 to 4. There's a silver bullet in there. Okay, it's going to be there. But what are you going to be aiming for? In that case, if you felt that the morning session drop was just the making the low of the day, and then the PM session is going to just expand going higher, going into the close, well, it goes without saying that you're going to be looking for expansion in the afternoon. So what would you be looking for? Well, was yesterday's high higher than where you've traded today intraday? If it is, that's what you aim for. That's your draw on liquidity. And if you're using that as your basis, okay, wonderful. You're looking for 5, 10, 15 handles, whatever your silver bullet target is. I don't want to try to force it into just only being 5. But in the beginning, I believe everybody should be striving for just 5 handles. Because if you can consistently prove it to yourself that there's a probability behind it, and it's measurable that you can do it if you commit yourself to it. And then you have a track record that you've journaled. This is what I thought was going to happen. This is where I entered it. This is where I framed the risk. This is where I tried to get out at. And this is how many times it panned out for me. And this is how many times that it didn't pan out for me. And I'm still going to stick with it over time. I'm going to get better at it. And then after a while, when it's comfortable for you, but not in a hurry, don't be in a rush to do it. Go from trying to aim for 5 to 10 handles. And then live there for a little while, a couple months. Don't try to force it, because you literally can change the entire trajectory of your life. Much like going back to what I was saying about my son, I said, Cameron, when you look at these trades, you don't realize that what you're doing, a couple $100 here and a couple $100 there per day, like they're the building blocks of you having something that's going to yield thousands of dollars per day, thousands of dollars per trade. But you have to allow for that to finally settle in on you. And you say, okay, well, I'm not going to be fearful. I'm not going to be in a rush to chase that price run. I thought it was going to go up that level, but I wasn't ready to take a trade. But now it started running and I missed the entry. So let me just get in and get on board right now because I can get those 12 remaining handles or pips. That's the mistakes he's making. So he's demanding, he's absolutely precise, and he has to know exactly how far it's going to go. And that messes with everybody in the beginning, no matter what you trade with. You get caught up in the excitement of that price action running, or you think it's running, and then when you chase it, it pulls back on you and it crushes you. Because he only has $1,000 daily max drawdown, he still is trying to do 2 contracts when I've told him 1. I don't know if you're doing that either. I don't know if the other listeners that would have an opportunity to sit here and say something, would they be honest and say, yeah, I do that too? Or are they not doing it? Is it something else? So there's a lot of things that would, create the difficulty for this. And that's why I talk a lot, because I try to cover all the things that I could imagine where I went through and what would arise by me saying what I just said in either a Twitter space or whatever I've talked about in a recorded lecture. I know what would be prompted most of the time by me saying something or touching on something. And I also know that I won't have the sufficient time or bandwidth to talk about it sufficiently enough to satisfy, so I don't touch it there and I'll treat it as its own individual topic. So I say all that to say that I don't know if I can adequately answer you in a succinct manner where you'll feel satisfied and feel like you've got something from it. The only thing I can tell you is keep working with some of the things I just mentioned here and what I've already taught and what I teach on in all the other videos, because it's not like there isn't one recipe that's going to fit you. And that recipe that you find profitable, if you try to put it in the hands of 12 other people, the likelihood of you having 3 others do it just like you and finding satisfaction in it is highly unlikely. It's highly unlikely because everybody's going to bring their own personality to it and what you're willing to do. And some of you you're built in high rollers. Like you want to be a high roller. Like you want to be, another Tom Hugard. Like you don't give a shit. You're just going to swing for the fences, and you'll deal with the drawdown, and you'll figure out how to fix it later on. But right now, I'm trying to do as much as I can every single time I get in front of the charts. And others are going to be very timid, and they're going to be like, I really don't want to risk a lot, and I'm okay with getting there over 10 years. So it's a very complex thing as a teacher to try to provide a very detailed roadmap. So what I do is I present different approaches how I can use the information to try to help you specialize on what it is that you're trying to do, whether it be an intraday scalp, whether it be a day trading where you're trying to do the full daily range. All of that is silver bullet. It's just a matter of where you're placing it and what you're aiming for. And I've done a great deal, like for instance, the One Model for Life teaching. That teaching right there, if I had that in the first 6 months of my trading, I would have avoided blowing out at least six not contracts, real accounts. I would have avoided doing that very thing because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was aiming for. I was trading for targets within a pattern that I believed was in price when they weren't. It wasn't there. I was being confused and led astray by the chaos of price action structure versus this is where liquidity is. This is where inefficiencies are. And where are those times of the day that liquidity would be considered impactful? That lesson that I gave in that, it's not a model of specific trading. It's a model of determining how you go in and you look for the liquidity that's mattering right now. No matter what time of day, whether you go in the London session, the morning session of New York, or the PM session, I've taught you and you see me going out there doing it with a real account. I go after very specific elements of liquidity above or below the marketplace or inefficiencies using the very logic that I taught in that lecture. So I guess the easiest direct response would be the way you improve is use the logic that I have taught in that one and then associate everything else I've mentioned here. Hopefully it was insightful for you.
I just want to build on what you're saying, Michael, real quickly here to the folks listening. I mean, ICT is here, and the breadth and depth of work that he has provided on his YouTube channel for free and available to you. These are ingredients. Each one is an ingredient for you to utilize within a rule set and or framework that you construct as the trader. So when you come in and you ask, what's this ingredient do? Or, I mean, not that you meant it in a disrespectful way, but what are the rule sets to the silver bullet? Motherfucker, watch the first 5 minutes of the silver bullet video and you'll see what the rule set is for fucking silver bullet. So coming up here and asking, what's this one ingredient that I need to utilize to bake my cake to find consistency and profitability? Motherfucker, go watch the YouTube and pay the fuck attention. One trade setup. I'll tell you what I use real quick. One trade setup for life. I love it. Session liquidity. NWOGs, NDOGs. I can't get enough. They look like 3D fucking goggles for me personally. OTE, the fib. Oh my God. Quarterly levels. Holy shit. Keying these onto, for me, and I mentioned I utilize DR ranges. I don't think ICT, who's here, has a problem with me utilizing other logic or confluences within the ingredients, the universal ingredients, the algorithmic principles and theories that he's outlined, not in one series, ladies and gentlemen, in fucking every single thing he's ever taught on YouTube. So to have the opportunity to talk to him and ask him to regurgitate what he's mindfully presented in a very logical, formulated fashion for you to apply however the fuck you want. You get to be the trader. He's giving you the ingredients. He's given you the ingredients. All of us are going to see price differently. So thank you, Michael, for being as in-depth and detailed and dropping sauce, keeping it saucy in the conversation here. But motherfuckers, if you're listening to me, this ain't it. This isn't personal mentorship by Michael. You want that, you go to his YouTube page and you can get that there. And you better be taking some fucking notes and sharpening your goddamn pencil.
If I could say something real quick.
Pretty please.
I didn't take his inquiry like that. I think if
like I mentioned earlier, if I would have had an opportunity to have asked Larry Williams something, um, I had the belief in such high regard for him that if I were have perhaps in the presence of him, ask him, say, hey, look, I've seen you talk about how the bond market does this, and therefore the S&P should do that. And then I hear you talk about your RSI, not RSI, but your Williams percent R is like the half of the stochastic that George Lane didn't invent, by the way. And I I would like very much for you to help me determine what period Williams percent R I should use if I was using this as a model. What would you advocate that I would begin with and start with? Um, I don't think what the gentleman was asking was so grossly outside of the normal. I just didn't want everybody that would maybe have the opportunity, and I didn't think we were going to have that anyway. I thought we were just going to talk. But if you want to let people come in and ask
No,
us
we can
questions,
talk,
that'd be
brother.
great.
I like you and I talking. So y'all put your hands down. This is an opportunity for Michael to have a conversation, and we're here hanging out. And understand that I'm picking up what you're putting down. And typically, this is an open forum, and we like to have a lot of discussion. But this is an opportunity for Michael to hang out with you and with me. And I like to keep respect within what the wishes are, and the chance and opportunity for us to talk, my man. So yes, guys, I'm going to be removing the speaker tags, and we are going to continue having a conversation, and that way it can be a little bit more controlled, a little bit more directed, and it could be hopefully of value with respect to again the man himself. So um, you're absolutely right, Michael. That's what this is. This is us talking, and um, as you're saying, folks like to come in and they want the opportunity, and I know you'll be here again, and they'll get an opportunity to ask questions, and hopefully we can, directly or indirectly answer them, or hear that out. So go ahead and turn off your requests, everybody, and recognize what this is, and what it's being asked to be, and enjoy the conversation. Enjoy the
I hope I
conversation.
was I hope I was helpful to the guy
Bro,
that
you're
was
super
asking.
helpful. You can't not open your mouth and people not have a sharp pencil with a notebook there taking notes. So, yes, you were helpful. And I'm just the guy that likes to try and pick up the vibe and carry it. And I don't have a problem with trying to pick up what you're putting down and interpret it in my own 2 cents. Angelo, stop waving. I'm not bringing you up here, brother. I know you have something valuable that you would like to ask, but
Is that
y'all,
the same Angelo that was sending me a text message the other day?
it
So,
is the Angelo. Yes, that is the Angelo that actually he was talking to you, and he did ask specifically about your boy, and you replied to him pretty much, thank you for asking. And that's the same Angelo. That's it. He's an Italian guy. He moved from Italy to New York recently. And what is nice, Michael, about this community is getting the opportunity to get to know the name and the story behind the profile. And again, that's all. This is all forged in your shadow. And I believe I'm trying in being here to just pick up what you're putting down in what I consider advanced concepts. Having some form of an increase, I've never felt more of an increase within the market than after meeting you in April. You could say it's divine, random people reaching out to me, random conversations, the universe, God's hand. And I'm forever grateful. And within that, I like to try to be a community, but also be a trader. And I try and offer some form of insights and echoing a lot of, whether it's a fib level that you provided in one of the episodes earlier this year, or specific, conversation alpha that you drop within a series. I just try and echo that. And I think people resonate with that, and they are given an opportunity to kind of ask, do you think he meant this? And they, I know for a fact a lot of folks are kind of starstruck you being here, and they would love the opportunity to engage. So I'm Angelo. Just his question has to be adjusted and set. That's so funny.
Has what? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
He had a question, and I only say this because Angelo is in my WhatsApp conversation. But he had a question, and I think this is actually a good question. So I wouldn't mind asking you this, but the importance of the B adjust, the B dash ADJ within
Daily settlement.
yes, the daily settlement, and what your thoughts and 2 cents are on that. And I've heard you address this before, but it's coming from Angelo, and I want to respectfully ask you the question because I think it will help a lot of folks have the same question.
I have been toggling it both on and off, and I refer to both settings. So if there's something that I would consider a PD array that is noteworthy, or a specific open or close, I'll have them both in my notes. I have like a little yellow notepad. I showed the other day when some assholes were trying to say I live in a shack. I wish I wouldn't have done it now because I can't take it back once I put it out on the internet. But I walked out of my trading room, but before I did, I panned through and showed the monitors. You probably saw a little yellow notepad there. That's the thing that I'm using. That's what I'm having to work with. There's specific levels, and when I'm toggling the daily settlement price on or off, I'm annotating those price levels, and I don't note them like, okay, with it toggled on it's this level, and with it toggled off it's this level. I just note both of them, so it gives me a perspective where they might be a factor for someone else looking at price, and it may impact sentiment based on those ideas. So it's not like it's a one set of this is the only way of doing it. So there are times where I'm very dogmatic about concepts. I'll say, you don't want to use this. You want to use that. Or for instance, like the opening price. Okay, there's 2 opening prices that in Forex I taught that were predominantly just those 2, which is the midnight opening price. Whatever the first opening price is at midnight, New York local time, you want that, and you want the opening when trading starts.
5 p.m. in Forex,
Yes.
then,
Yeah. So by having that, that flexibility of toggling that on and off, I don't want anybody. I don't know where I know I answered it and I addressed it somewhere, but just for the life of me, I apologize. I can't remember where I said it, but it's that way for the folks that are hearing it. No, that I toggle that on and off, and I get the recorded prices based on whether it's toggled on and toggled off. That's why sometimes when you're looking at it, sometimes it looks like I have it highlighted for the express purposes of showing what I'm showing at that moment. When other times I don't have it toggled on, and I'm not referring to anything specific about the chart, so I can see where might cause confusion. But you just caught me in between where I'm recording both of those readings, but I refer to them collectively, not in and of themselves separate, and one's better than the other. I just simply have them toggled on and off to get a reading for what those measurements on those price levels are. So hopefully I removed any mystery around it, because there really isn't that much about it.
No, I think that's an excellent point. I think that's an excellent point, and he's quickly he's texting me and saying thank you for your response. So if you guys do have questions, I will peruse through the comments, and I could potentially cherry pick some of these questions and ask them to Michael, and that way it can be a little bit more of controlled conversation versus just anyone coming up and saying any old thing, and us not being able to kind of direct the conversation, and valuing and respecting his time. Because again, all of you are referencing some form of his life's work, so he can refer to any and all of this. He can be verbose on any one of these concepts, right? Because there is. So
Yeah, if you open the floor to people calling in and saying, "Hey, look, can I ask you this personally?" Um, it's going to put me in a position where I literally will not be satisfied no matter how much I talk about it, because I'm going to immediately place myself in a situation where if this were me, like I would want this person to, number one, give me time, acknowledge my interest, be respectful, and do your best to try to answer. And if I was to make myself available for that, like we would be here all night long. Because I mean, you see how it is. Like I keep going on and on and on, and I feel like I didn't do enough to answer the gentleman's question, and it's bothering me. Like
well, he
I
was
would never get through
apologetic
it.
to me. No, it's funny because he's like, sorry, ICT concepts, if I understood wrong, but I heard we were here talking as traders, so I thought I could ask him a simple question. If I overstepped, I'm sorry. You didn't. Me saying, listen, motherfucker, it's just me talking. So you didn't take it personally. I don't take it personally. No one took it personally. I'm trying to conduct this with the utmost respect for Michael's time and valuing and appreciating him being here. For
Can you
one,
ask? Can you
go ahead.
ask him if I was helpful in my response at all? Because that I'm bothered because I don't know if it was helpful to him.
I mean, he can respond here. Jad, respond under your original comment. Your question was very good, and thank you for asking because we are always learning. So, I definitely see the value in folks asking questions, and I want to just go through. I mean, I can peruse some of these comments and yeah, anyway, yeah, Jimmy, Mr. 930 makes a very good point. Motherfucker is a term of endearment, at least in our and I've heard ICT. I mean, Michael, there's one time you were talking in one of your spaces. You were in Florida on vacation. It had to be in April, shortly after we had spoke, and you were in your car and you use the term of endearment like motherfucker. It's like that. It's our age. It's like this motherfucker's trying to come up to the car, or I don't know what he's doing. But it's funny because there are folks that are of our generation and utilizing the term motherfucker. Don't get oversensitive. It
Yeah.
is ultimately a term of endearment.
Yeah.
So, do you remember that you were in Florida and there's like some guy that like almost came up to your
I think there's
car?
a I thought of a few times where that actually happened. I had a guy almost run over top me with his pickup truck, and I had my vet, and I was taking a drive, trying to do a Twitter space, which was not so smart. But I had a road rage incident where, like, I thought I was going to have to get out of the car and whip his ass, and I was like, man, that was on live. Like, I just lost myself right there on live. That's the first thing came to mind. That's what I thought you were talking about. But as I'm hearing it, I remember what you're saying, and it was I was in a parking lot of a shopping center, and the guy was like walking up, and I thought he was gonna like. Many of you don't know. I mean, there's one dickhead that has had people, follow me around, taking pictures and changing the pictures and changing this and photoshopping this and all this garbage. With that person aside, I've actually had other people that, at least from what I can tell, other people that have come to my house, literally knocked on my door, rang the doorbell. We spoke to them through the ring phone, doorbell, saying, look, we're really not interested in having any conversation or meeting with you. And they said, well, can you just let me get a picture with you? I really would like to meet you. And I had people sitting outside my neighborhood at the exit point, not right in front of my house, because you can see when there's a car, because it's pretty open out here. But when you leave the main neighborhood, they're down there parked. And when I pass them, or whenever my wife has passed them, they follow. And then when we get up to a red light, they're like beeping their horn, saying, "Hey, look, hey, can you let me get a picture of you? Thank you so much. Thank ICT." This and it's just, I want to say this, and please don't think of me as a dick for saying this, but don't fucking come around me like that, okay? 'Cause I don't know who you are. My family doesn't know who you are, okay? I don't want to hurt you, and I don't want my family to be afraid. I understand that you might think I'm something special. I'm not. I'm just somebody out here that's sharing on the internet. I want to be part of the community, and I don't want to be treated like a celebrity. And I don't want my family to be fearful of people that might think of me as something that I'm not. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not something special. I'm not somebody that's special. And nobody will give a fuck if you get a picture with me standing next to you. It's not that big of a deal. So I really want them that have that mindset. If I could just meet you, that type, you'll be disappointed. Never try to meet your heroes. Never, never, never do that. Never meet your heroes. Okay, I'm a flawed man. I have character flaws still, and I'm not going to be comfortable if you were to pin me down and say, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute? Can I get a picture?" I won't want to do that with you, and I'll seem probably obtuse and rude because I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what your intentions are. I don't know if you want to hurt me or my family. I don't know what it is that you're doing. And in your mind, you're thinking, I probably would love this opportunity to meet someone like a fan. I don't look at any of you as a fan. I look at all of you as a family member. I'm trying to instill into all of you things that I wish I had, and I want to see what you do with it. I'm not trying to cultivate this atmosphere where you all treat me like a celebrity and put me on a pedestal and then want to invade my personal life. I would not be comfortable with that at any time. And sending me gifts. I don't want any more gifts. Stop mailing shit to me. Stop sending me stuff. Okay, it's too much. It's uncomfortable. My wife is uncomfortable by it, and my daughter literally had to move out of this fucking state for this very reason. She's got anxiety. She's tore up all the time. She's constantly thinking someone's following her when I know nobody's following her. Nobody knows where the fuck she's at. Okay, but this whole like trying to get closer to me type thing, it makes me uncomfortable. It makes my wife extremely uncomfortable. That's the number one reason why she said, "Listen, your fucking ass is off in November. It's done. Pick the date, and that's the date it's going to be." That's why it's the 11th. Nobody's pushing me out but her. She's scared. Too many people have intruded in our lives for all the stupidest fucking reasons. Like I'm some kind of MVP fucking player on a sports team. I'm nobody. Like I'm literally just an average guy. I have something I've shared, and I want to sit back now and let everybody else have fun with it and live their life with it. I don't want people trying to invite me to special events. And I've had literally so many people reach out for things like go on teaching circuits. We'll pay for you to fly here. We'll put you up at this. We will pay you money and do this and do that. I don't want any of that stuff. I don't want to be anything more than I already am, and I want to reduce. So,
Bro, for what it's worth, I think you coming here and engaging with the community on your terms and with it just being you and I, being a conversation. And if folks do have a question, they could ask in the comments. I think this makes you very approachable to the community. You can hear from them, they can hear from you. And I mean, you have been on this elusive pedestal and you've had to be based on your personality in the way you've delivered content through having the private mentorship, through marketing, and then through and where and how you're exiting, right? I don't
mhm,
think there's any fault to that. I'm just trying to like see it from both sides, right? I get your point. You engaging with folks on your terms or giving them the opportunity to engage with you, bro. I mean, I personally think this is a great platform that has been kind of curated for something form fit for something like this.
yeah.
So
I just wanted to have the opportunity to like really like you and I when we talked. I told you this. Like this is it's very concerning for my family. Like if I was a single guy and I was younger, like I wanted this stuff when I was younger, and I told you this when we were having our discussion. I said I wanted this whole big fanfare about me. Like I wanted it because it made me feel significant where I didn't feel significant as a child. I didn't have all that support structure around me, and I didn't have the approval of my own parents. So it would always be a passion of mine to try to get people to, number one, recognize me. And I can tell you, some of you younger folks out there that think that you want this, even though it's not that big of a deal, like in the grand scheme of things, I'm still nothing. But the little bit that I have, it's extremely uncomfortable. Like I don't know when I go out in public if there's going to be someone that's going to come up to me and say, "Hey, can you sign this book? Can you sign my journal? Can you get a picture with me?" And if if you could just place yourself in that situation where you have a wife that has never had the full attention of your entire marriage because of these markets. These markets have been my mistress, and she's been playing second fiddle to it. And she's finally pinned me down and said, "Listen, like we will divorce." That's the terms. That's what she laid down for me. So that's why I'm telling you, the people that are making side bets that I'm not going to go anywhere, I'm fucking gone. I love my wife. I love my family. I'm literally unplugging because I want to give her what she's deserving of, what my family's deserving of. But my concern is this. I'm afraid when I stop making myself available online, more of you that want to meet me for the silliest of reasons, because that's really what it is. Right now, it's just because, you think there's something special about that experience. There's nothing special about that experience. And I don't want to be rude to you if you were to pin me down in public, because I would not give you the time of day if you tried to do that. I would turn away and walk away from you. And I don't want to have that experience for you or me. And I wanted to convey this to people out there because I don't like what it feels like to be like this. And if I was to get bigger and more popular, it would be really detrimental to my relationship with my wife. And I don't want that. So, and it's
I
probably
try and
very
echo
hard.
those sentiments, brother. I really do. I try and take our personal conversation and let them know. I think you have every right to, and you deserve the right to be a dad and a husband without all this fanfare of randos. And you don't know who's hating and who's loving. And I'm sure that has, more than anything, scared the bejesus out of your family members. They're like, who's that creepy dude? And then you get those dumb motherfuckers that are talking shit and hating, and you get to deal with that as well. And I know that's hurtful. And I don't think a lot of people understand just how hurtful that is, because you're very vulnerable, bro. You're very, very vulnerable, and you're very, very open. And then people try and utilize that vulnerability to attack you. And I just want to say, as a student, as a friend, as someone that can empathize and relate, that sucks, bro. And it's just the fact of the matter. It's what the nature of social media is, right? Like, not just social media, but when you become a global icon, whether you want to accept that or not, your impact, that's the word, impact, from your increase that you've shared with others now has put you at a level that makes you uncomfortable and incorrectly attacked. And I understand, and I want other folks to understand, that you've got every right to just be a dad and just be a husband and request and respond to the requests of the most important people in your life. And I think that's what you're doing more than anything. And I like echoing that from our conversation way back when to even now. Like, guys, chill. Like, it's not okay. If you like, value, and appreciate Michael, then take something with his lessons and his concepts and do something with them, and put yourself on Front Street with doing something with them. And then, more importantly, try and help other people, because that's the ultimate lesson. I just want to echo what you're saying, brother. I really do.
Do you remember when we were talking and I told you that I was wrestling with feeling guilty about leaving because I feel like it's going to be viewed as selfish, like I'm being selfish when I've tried to do everything I possibly have done to 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 be anything but selfish. But I have a wife, I have kids that I did not spend much time with. And these markets and the things I did with people on the internet, not only I talk about just mentorship, but like all the time. Like I would be answering emails back on Baby Pips, and I loved it. Like I love it, and it's going to be an adjustment for me not to be doing it anymore. So I've wrestled with that guilt of should I feel this way? I'm very, very passionate about it. But if it's going to be a choice of staying married or doing this, I'm staying married.
I mean, respectfully, I mean, I want to say, and I say respectfully, respecting our private conversation, but I told you, having gone through a divorce myself, like for me, my wife resented every time I picked up the phone. Every
Hmm.
time, and I didn't even have a fraction of the following, but it had to do with like the markets became to her like a mistress,
Hmm.
right? It was diverting attention. And you have the markets, as well as even back in the day with Baby Pips. I don't know what the exact numbers were, but you had tens of thousands. I mean, I want to say it was like 30, 40, 50,000 people way back when, before it was the global body that it is now, to the tune of millions between combined socials, right? So I could empathize and relate as a husband that dirty look that my wife would give me just by picking up the phone, like you're not focusing on me,
Hmm.
motherfucker. That can't last.
Yep.
And I feel like I can empathize with you on that. And I've gone through not one wife but two wives, and I've chose trading in the charts over my relationships with them. And at times I'm very, I regret it. But at other times I say it's the best thing that ever happened to me because it's bringing me more to my real self. So I can, just like then, I want to say it now again on Front Street. I mean, this was the conversation that we were having, right? Like
Yeah.
this was something I think that's extremely important for folks to really understand the real you, not ICT, the global icon, Michael Huddleston, the man,
Hmm. Can
being a
we talk about
father.
some of the things that we did in that conversation? Like I was giving you some questions, and I was interested in your responses. And I think, I
Yeah.
don't know if you've said it in other, maybe you did, I don't know. But I kind of like want to do a little bit of, you know, recanting of what we discussed, because if we were to close it and this is all there was to discussion that we've had today, it's going to feel like, well, it was kind of flat. It really didn't do too much. I mean, we chit chatted a little bit. One guy asked a question, some other person gave some approval and appreciation, which I'm thankful for. But at the time when we were talking, I was doing interviews and asking folks, how they got into trading, and what was the most difficult things they had to go through while learning, and what were those things that they leaned on to keep themselves motivated. Because I mean, you're running a community, okay? You are the cheerleader, but who's Kit's cheerleader? Like, what did you do to stay motivated, to kept you hopped up, keep going forward, and that energy that it gave you to be this spearhead, to be a driving force to encourage other people, and to lead a community that has a like-mindedness about doing these very things. Before you got to that point where you decided this is what you wanted to pursue, like what were you leaning on? What did you fall on and say, okay, I'm weakened at this point, but I'm going to lean against this, and I'm going to let myself grow in strength again, and I'm going to go right back in and plow again. I'm not going to be discouraged. What were those things for you?
Oh, man. I had some dumb blind luck within the market. I had wins that I couldn't replicate in a million years. I just got lucky. And I can't say with a straight face that the wins that I had early, I mean, I bought Tesla early just because my high school buddy was like, we need to buy HSBC, we need to buy Kroger, we need to buy Santander, and we need to buy Tesla. And this was a buddy of mine who had a degree in finance, who went to Hawaii and was trying to become a Navy SEAL, and has been a lifelong friend to not only me, but my younger brother, and his older brother is my daughter's godfather. So, like, this union of two brothers, two sets of brothers, just that from early days of high school, riding bikes, going to the street fair, first time ever drinking, sneaking the old man's alcohol. This guy gets a degree in finance, and I'm womanizing and living in Brazil, backpacking. And I come back and I work and I have a tip job. And the tip job was at a luxury hotel, but I made really good money. And it was like I was taking all of my tips, my daily tips, and saving them. And I was saving them. And my brother and my friend are hodlers, hold on for dear life. They still have an amazing stock portfolio. Both of them do. And where I was different, or where I wanted to be different, was I made a lot of money on buying some of these stocks way before they split. And, then they split and it became a lot of money, and we kind of fell into like this windfall, and they continued hodling, and I wanted to be different. And I got into options and options trading. And I bought some stupid ass course on animal patterns, and I spent a ridiculous amount of money on it. And I started following, I saw you on Baby Pips, and having had bought this course, I started like this thirst for knowledge of information of the markets. And I started trying to apply the bootleg versions of shit that I could find from you to equities. And I paid a ton of attention to ES and VIX within trading different companies in the S&P. And so trading, I was in options, and, COVID was COVID, and I had another windfall, and I made a shit ton of money in days that most people have never made in their life out of the market. And I was kind of following some signal services, but I was following a lot of your concepts. For me, OTE and the fair value gap. I thought I had unlocked the markets by measuring fair value gaps and gaps with fibs. And that was, for me, what I thought was the answer. But ultimately, dealing with options, weekly options, 0-day options, I was very inclined to take on risk. I was all about going. I refer to the term affectionately, but I'd say I went balls deep on a trade. And where my brother and my best friend were hodlers and they weren't interested in trading, I was like, nope, this is it. This is the answer. This is how you take money, and money works for you. And I started making and losing salaries of what I would in a normal year work an entire year to make. And that would happen in the tune of an afternoon. And so I had a windfall from hodling. I got into options and I applied ICT concepts. And for me, back in the day, OTE was it. And I thought measuring gaps and measuring fair value gaps with not just structure, but gaps and fair value gaps with a fib, which I still believe in, but I couldn't replicate it. I wasn't consistent, and I was extremely risk averse. And that was about the time that my daughter was born and that I had my first divorce. And, I say that was around the time I'm referring to, like, because the timeline has to make sense. The timeline was I bought Tesla and a lot of other stocks. My brother and my friend held I held for a while I worked. I got a degree. I was an adult learner. I became a construction engineer. I worked in development. I managed funds for the state of Ohio in building schools and school districts. And to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars that were being allocated from tobacco money that the state had won and had a mandate to apply towards underprivileged school districts. And I was on a team of 6, very small team, managing an extremely large fund. And so within estimating and construction and development and deploying these costs, I could see these really big numbers, and I had to sign pay applications, a $3.5 million pay